I'll just go over a couple of things that we've like done in the call in the last couple of days. So the biggest one being that we now have the ability to download apps, which I think is kind of like a huge step towards something that personally I don't think I've really seen anything like this in existence. Like I know there's certain things out there that seem similar, but I think we're trying to do something like slightly different there. But I think this is something we just we didn't have in V1, but I think like having this in V2 is like just going to be a game changer. So basically now devs can make these apps and literally just give them to people who can drop them in the world. Like, and that world can be hosted on any domain, like running our tech, right? And I think that's just like a huge milestone. But so now that we have like these apps that can exist in worlds alongside other apps that are more likely built by other developers, I think that's super exciting. But I also think that we're kind of the first people to do something like that. And in doing that, we need to like kind of think carefully about the capabilities that apps have. And we almost have to invent these completely new mechanics that let these apps all exist and coexist in a world, but not be invasive or like step on anyone's toes. And so like the best example that we have for this right now is how apps are like able to intercept and take over the keyboard. And they just write some code and you just take over the keyboard and do that kind of stuff. And then like you can move the camera around, teleport players and stuff like that. And that kind of turns into a problem when you have two apps that are trying to do the same thing. Like if you got two completely different apps that are trying to control the camera and respond to the keys being pressed or taking over keys and stuff like that. And so the current thinking here is that the only way we can like that we should only allow an app to take control of the keyboard and do all that kind of stuff is through a player interaction. So like if you walk up to something and you click on it, or if you walk into its trigger zone or something like that. And then when that happens, we're going to show a little box or something like that up the top right that basically says that your app's taken some control over your avatar. And that also gives you the ability to exit it somehow. If the app is like bugged or it does something weird, you can just click the little button and it'll cancel that control so that you can get the full control of your player back. And it also means that like if you interact with like a hacked app or something like that, you can just click the little X and cancel it. So this is kind of like, it's analogous to like MMO buffs or debuffs that you find like in World of Warcraft. There's like a thing that you can eat called a savory deviant delight, I think it's called, and you'll turn into a pirate. And you get this little buff up the top right, and you can just cancel it any time to turn back into a human or whatever race you are. So I think that's kind of like the way that we're heading down with that. So we also need to kind of think about the circumstances that players can be like teleported and have forces applied to them and stuff like that. For now, we're just kind of like letting these things happen. And I think that kind of gives us the experience and just kind of being able to see how it works and then learn from that and then make sure that we kind of make the right decisions. So that's apps. We shipped a couple of other things. So we were talking about Hyperball on the last call, and that's progressing. But I think one of the things that was really missing there was audio. And so we now have in the core the ability to play audio. You can do spatial audio and whatever. You can just load in an MP3 onto any app and then play that at any time based on any logic. Like when you walk into an area, or if you click on something, or if the server wants to, it can just like play songs and whatever. And we broke that up into two tracks. There's actually three different categories of audio. There's background music type category, and then there's sound effects, and then there's voice. And the reason we broke that up is because we want to so in V1, we never had the ability to do anything with music controls. And what you'll see in a lot of games is that there's like a master volume, but then there's like the music volume, and then there's the sound effect volume. So we split it all up so that they're all in three kind of gain nodes, and we can control those independently. We can have a UI for all of that. Some people might just not want background music, but they still want the sound effects for the games they're playing and stuff like that. The other thing that we did was get the app props. So every app can have a custom UI, which means that people who don't know how to code can just go and click buttons on the app to configure it to make it work the way that they want it to work. That's now stable. We got basic fields in there like text fields and switches and file fields for uploading things like VRMs and background images for the skies and emotes and a couple other things there as well, and extra models and stuff like that too. And we've got some docs, some basic docs for that, and that'll just keep evolving. But I think it's pretty stable right now, and people should be starting to use that. Yeah. So we got yeah. So someone was talking about the security issues of being able to like allow people to just drop certain apps in their worlds. So like if I had a world and I was like, I don't care, anyone can just drop down their cars and stuff and drive around. Like they can just bring their own car and drop it into my world. That's cool. I'm fine with that. And there was an issue about like security of all of that. But the way I see it is like there's two like solutions that this kind of solves. And the first one is like if I made a 10,000, like a 10K car collection, there's 10,000 different car models, basically all powered, but they all use the same engine. Like the core logic underneath is just a car, but they all have different skins. In my world, I'm not going to want to have 10,000 cars that people can like that load in all at once, because one, it would take forever, and two, the performance would probably be pretty bad. But if we basically whitelist that car, like that collection, then anyone who has or owns one of those files or as an NFT or something like that can just drop that car into that world and just go driving around in it. The issue was that I've seen it pop up. It's popped up a couple times where people are like, I don't like the idea of running untrusted code in a world. That seems like it could be an issue. But the way I see that is, if I'm a builder and I'm building a racetrack or something like that, and I have these 10,000 cars, like they could have been built by somebody else, but I could put them in my world right now. I could put all 10,000 in there and let people drive them. I've already agreed that the code is safe. So when I say like anyone can just, if I just make it so that anyone can bring that same code into my world, then it's no different. And so I think that the security issues aren't as big as maybe what people are thinking about. And it's kind of the same as having a website when I install NPM packages. Like it's not, people just choose based on like trust levels, I guess. They're just like, no, this looks relatively safe because, hundreds of other people are using it. Therefore, I'm assuming it's probably safe. And there are always a lot of white hat hackers out there who are looking for dodgy things, and they bring those things to light, and they can get blacklisted and stuff like that as well if they wanted to. Or patched for security vulnerabilities and stuff like that. And the other things happening at the moment, so a few people, including Sari, kind of like brought up the issues with the controls, the player controls, they were quite good in V1. Like the whole pointer lock thing was good, and then you hit tab, you go into build mode. I think that was good. There's a couple of like random things that I didn't like with V1, which kind of made me try to rethink this through with V2. The first was that if you had like a web view or something in a V1 world, like the Reddit, that you had to escape from being in pointer lock so that you could click things on the web view, and that felt clunky and weird to me. And there's just a couple other things. It's like, if you have UI, like in-world 3D UI, where you have to go up and like you can click on a menu of buttons or something like that, it felt weird to be trying to point the like reticle in the middle of the screen at those things. Whereas in V2, the point is not locked, so you don't have to turn your entire camera to make the exact middle of your screen point at something so that you can click it. You can just literally put the mouse there and click it. So for those things, I think V2 controls would feel really good. But I think it's correct to say that it doesn't really help with certain kind of game modes like first-person shooters, and it does feel less game-like, I guess, like less immersive slightly. to have to hold down the right mouse button and then do whatever. But also the right clicking to build just feels a lot nicer, I think, than in V1 personally. But I mean, I think we all have different opinions. So yeah, I'm open to making some changes there if anyone wants to propose anything. It's tough to think about, I think, because there's just so many moving parts there. They all kind of have to work. And we also need to think about how it's going to work in VR and mobile as well, which we have minimal kind of controls on mobile, and the VR one doesn't really have anything other than movement right now. So yeah, we just need to think about those things. But yeah, those are the main things I think that at least I've been working on, and some core pieces and stuff like that. Yeah.
I'm curious what other people think about the controls right now.
Yeah, I like them. I think there should just be each world could be its own. If there's like multiple ones, you just pick what you want for your users. And I like the right click. Seems kind of natural. The placement. We've been playing with a little build camera too, which is fun. But been able to place things and move around pretty easily. I think a one solve method is kind of rare, but I think what we have now, and maybe if there's another one that you choose, I guess.
Oh, so like having like multiple kind of things in there.
Yeah, I think each world is like a different complete game. So like in Sega, you take this game, or is EA Sports, this one's by Sega, and I think the world should be less like permanent and more like server instances. It's like, hey, this is like made on Hyperfy 1.4.1, and then until like it's really strong,
Yeah.
I think
I did love point of lock, because I agree, you lock your mouse and then you're in, it's more immersive, it feels better. But I just can't picture like the ease of, unless you had like a switch that switched you to build mode where you had your pointer back and you could right click and duplicate. I just love in V2, I freaking love just dragging and dropping shit into the world and then just placing it without even needing to bring up. Because in V1 you had to click tab, open the editor,
this is 10 times
and you just click the add button, and then you had to search for the thing that you wanted. I feel like it's just all that's gone.
I just don't get like your perspective of like how in your head you thought this would work for more than just building, or why did you think that we could have one solution that would work for everything?
Yeah, no, you're right. You're probably right. Like there is no one solution for everything.
Because you load up a basketball game, it's basketball. It's not the same.
I don't think I don't think I have like the perfect solution, but in my head, like the most logical route is to basically like you press tab and then you have the same controls you do right now. And if you tab back, then you could either have the same controls that we do right now. Like if your world was going to have a lot of like interactive UI components and it was maybe just like for trading or something, then I would probably choose the same controls that we have right now to be the in-game ones. But if I could swap it out to like have their third-person point and lock, or like first-person point and lock or something when you're not in build mode, then
I like the idea of like just having good defaults and then allowing people to configure. I don't like the idea of having like a free-for-all. So I think, I think the idea of having like a solid default solution and then giving the option for configuration if necessary is kind of the path to go. But yeah, just kind of walking down the path of showing people what the good default is, and then because you'll be able to build a pattern, and other people will be able to build patterns, and whichever pattern wins, you kind of leave it to them. But if you don't kind of pave a clear path early on, it might be confusing.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know about playing games, how good it is, but for building, it's 10 times better than V1. We've been making little things every night, and it's really fast, like throwing things around and making slabs for the buildings, and it's not tiring or boring. Pretty good. I'm not sure about actually playing an experience, but as a builder, it's cool. I think.
For what it's worth, I don't mind pointing with my reticle like at something to click on it. Like I feel like that's pretty common with games, just pointing and clicking.
Yeah, the action node that we have that you can just walk up to stuff and hold down E. I liked that because you didn't have to like in V1 it was so annoying when somebody put a button in, like it was small and you had to like get the reticle perfectly on it. I love the idea that you just walk up to the thing and it finds the closest one and says you just hit E and it will do it. I do like that. So maybe like good. Having reticle, like having a pointer lock with reticle and then also with that E to interact, makes it better. Yeah, I think it was SCO that made the good point. I think that like it works really well for building, but maybe it doesn't for experiences. I guess we'll learn pretty quickly.
The one thing I'm looking at as an artist is like finding out how to do the light, like some kind of light. If we can have lights, that's cool. But like, I think lights and then controlling your intensity of the sun. Like back in the day, we could just throw the sun in and rotate it really quick with a GUI. I think lighting is like one of the most important things in design. So whatever we can have in the future.
Now that I can share apps with you guys,
cool.
I should make the Sky app and make some changes to that because we do actually have support for changing the sun's intensity and the direction of the sun as well. And we could just simplify that by just doing the app and having a time control or something like that as well. But yeah, we do have that. In terms of like additional lights, the web just really kind of sucks at lights. We have them in V1, but it runs into issues. And I think using things like Bloom for like effect lighting is a really good substitute.
It makes sense. I think it does cast shadows. I'm doing a lot of. So we got bored last night. We started making neon signs on top of the fast food stuff, and I feel like they're emitting light, but they're really not. Correct?
Yeah, no, they don't. It's a post-processing effect. It just makes the colors bleed out the edges and overlay on the other things. It's really quite cool. Like some of the things that Vox has made that are like live DJ event type places with the strobing lights. Like there's actually no lights there, but it feels like it. Like super feels like real lights. It's kind of crazy.
So I guess baking, the bakers will make some money.
Yeah, the only issue you don't have is like there's no global illumination and like indoors there's no shadows and like propagating anywhere.
All right, now that we're getting into it.
Yeah.
What about like fog?
What's that?
Is there fog?
Yeah, so I did it. Shit, did I add it? No. But I can add it. I'm gonna add it soon. So yeah. That'll be all rolled up into the Sky node that we have for doing that. I've got, so 3JS doesn't actually have the best fog. It's kind of like distance based, which is weird. If you have like tall like mountains and stuff, it's super weird. But I've got a hacked version of that, which works way better. So we'll put that into the call.
Yeah, I'm not like chomping my bit for those. I'm just curious for like the longevity.
Yeah, I think fog's good when you got bigger worlds. You just want to kind of like, it just adds, I don't know. You can make worlds feel bigger when you've got like a lot of buildings off in the distance that are just slightly hazed out. Kind of like makes it feel a lot better.
I have a question for people. Is anyone blocked in it on anything?
Good question. No.
What does that mean?
Just things they want to do but can't.
Yep. There's lots of things that we still need to build, but like, yeah, there's definitely things that will be blocking.
Solana is the only thing I've been waiting for. Everything else is like an arcade. It's amazing to.
Yeah, I want Solana too, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
I want the like the asset to be a wallet or something. Just
Yeah. Right now, I'm trying to figure out how to like set up like a minting site. It seems like it's gonna be easier with Solana, because I don't have to write any contracts, and they have like standard programs that you could just interface with JavaScript. But
you can even
seeing
Solana to make wallets. Be like, make me 30 wallets.
Yeah.
Custodial wallets. Send to these people.
Yeah. I don't know. I just saw the hype file and I want to get on that. Figure out how to put in some metadata and just pull it from that.
Someone talked about just like on the app files. Someone talked about having like I think it might have been you, Harry, but a couple other people have mentioned it too. Is like having a place to go to put these things. We should figure out what to do there. For now, you can just drop them on Discord, but they will get lost. But one of the things I think we should probably do is think about embedding an image and a name of an app into that as well. Just so that if you were to like, it's like VRMs, right? A VRM has a title and an image, like a PFP embedded inside it, if you want to.
Yeah.
And then we drop that into some site, you can already read it.
Do we have a template of a hype file? Just like
yeah, I can give you all of the code that generates them, import and export of a hype file is in one thing.
I'll send one in here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's super simple. It literally is just a header, a JSON file, and then all of the GLBs and any other assets, scripts, and whatever, just in file binary form, all concatenated into a single file.
You're right, though. You should be able to name every app, and it should go in the metadata, and it should show up on the file too, because it's just app.hype right now for everything.
What happens when there's like naming collisions? Is it not an issue? I guess it's not an issue.
All of the everything that the world does behind the scenes is actually using hashes. So if you drop a GLTF into there, it doesn't use the name of the file that you've got and store it like that. It uses the hash, which is like immutable and can't be changed. And it's the only hash that will work with that single file. So like we use that for everything, the apps, the scripts, all the assets, everything like VRMs that you upload and whatever. We just use hashes because it's the most simple way. So if I go and put like a 20 megabyte thing in my world, but then you on your computer go and drag and drop the same file, it won't even try to upload it to the server because it can just check the hash, and it could be renamed to something completely different. It just checks the hash and goes, nah, the server already has this. It doesn't even need to upload 20 megabytes.
So it's just using it's hashing the content of the app you're trying to upload, or okay.
Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah.
And then just for like standards, I feel like you mentioned like a name, and because versions might change, apps might get upgraded. It just reminds me just like a package.json or something like that something similar to that would be helpful. Yeah.
So the header has a blueprint file, which is basically just the files and then the configuration of it. So we'd have something like that in there. We just have the names and stuff. One of the intentions of like these files is that like in the world you build something and then you right click it and you just download it, right? But the other thing is that this is flexible enough for people to create tools and generators, and they can do this like on their own websites or whatever. Like somebody could have a website that, because the file format is really simple, somebody could have a website where you could configure pets. Like say you had, or let's use pets as an example, but pets assuming that they all have wearables and there's lots of different traits and stuff. And so you can like click randomize and whatever. And then that, once you configure all of that, you could then, the website could generate the app from all of that and just update all the bits and generate an app file like that will work in Hyperfy. So like the goal here is just to be super open to that kind of stuff where people can just create these things that are no code and configurable and they just output apps. basically.
Makes sense.
Hey there, this is Max. So, question, kind of responding to Sari's question about blockers. I wouldn't call them blockers, just things that I'm kind of patiently waiting for, hopefully to see more of is things to do like quests, inventory, to be able to kind of collect things, add them to a counter of some kind. I know code wise, it's probably there somewhere. Just I'm not too techy, so I can't code too much. And so I need those apps to support that.
Yes, so that I think that falls into the bucket in that image that I posted the other day with the collectibles, blocks, and like templates or prototypes or whatever.
Yep.
That fits into the blocks bucket. So those things can be built by us, but it could also be built by devs. So you could create like an audio controller that lets you put an MP3 in it, and then it gives you all the controls for that.
You could, if you're familiar with the V1 apps, you can almost design these like all the same. Yeah. Like you know how it works. They're all just apps. It's like a little different, but you know we could have everything back as it was pretty quickly if like it was a collective effort. And I think that just basically needs some type of app sharing system. And Ash, are you planning the app sharing system to be something that is like a per platform thing, or it's like all or like anyone who forks would automatically like have a way to?
You're okay with anybody just hosting like an app hosting thing, right?
Yeah, totally. Like this entire thing is meant to be PvE. Like anyone can just do anything. There's nothing stopping anyone from doing all of the above. The only thing that was kind of weird was people naming things like Hyperfy.host. But it's not even a like huge issue in it itself. It's just more of a de-risking thing. I don't fully get what you mean, sorry.
Well, I guess I'm just trying to figure out how we get to the point where like, or I don't know. Maybe we have, or was your plan for apps to be shared like through a marketplace on a 2D interface mostly, or what?
I think so.
Okay.
We want to do a marketplace or something like that. Anyone can do it if they want to.
So then you would have like a vault that you could get to with your phone after you. Okay. Gotcha.
I really like the idea that you were talking about before, where you can just do it in world. Like I think that's just like being able to create, rather than going to some 2D mark. I know it just depends on who you are. Like, but in terms of like being novel and whatnot, a 2D marketplace for 3D objects like Sketchfab, I think is cool. But you know, you click on it and then you get the 3D view. But like we have World Tech, why not just let people drop a whole bunch of like apps and stuff into a world and then say, people can just like buy or right click and download these right from in the world. And so like you can experience it. Like I go to some world that's like furniture store or some shit, you know what I mean? And there's just like there's furniture and stuff everywhere, and anything I can like test it out. I can click things and sit on them and like, you know, whatever, and like get the scale and make sure the scale is like the thing that I'm looking for. And then I'm like, I want that one. I just right click download and I can go use it in my world. And or like, you know, furniture is a pretty like tame example, but like you could have a world that's full of spaceships that you can jump in and fly around and shit, you know, like then you could just be like, I'll have one of those, thanks. And then you just take the spaceship and go and put it in your own world or whatever.
Do you have a way to like show people a good asset versus a bad asset? Because like I saw you guys talking about Meshy a lot, which Meshy's amazing, but a lot of the meshes are bad, and they're like not even like welded together, so there's a lot of holes in them.
Oh really? Sorry, when we say apps, are we saying objects, or I'm confused? Or are they the same thing?
It's a model with a script.
Okay, I see. Sorry.
Yeah.
They're similar.
So in that hype file or whatever, you'll see at the top, it's like the data for the model is like some JSON thing, and then there's just a JavaScript Like
It's like broken for me, sorry. It's like I see like Unicode characters and
When you try to open it.
Yeah, can you guys
yeah,
share it on the screen share? Maybe poke at it on the screen share, show an example of it.
Yeah, if you're just trying to open the file, it's not like a text file, it's full binary.
so how did you, I guess, like, is it on the repo, like how to build it?
Yeah. I'll share
okay.
that with you guys. There's basically, it's all in one file. It's just like a little bit snippet of JavaScript that knows how to convert that to JSON and file objects, and then convert it into a single binary file.
Okay.
So you can deconstruct, modify, and then put it back in as an app if you wanted to, like however you wanted.
We could go backwards from this hype back to the JavaScript and the kind of the original components.
Yeah, so if someone gives you an app and you go and drop that in your world, you can actually like right click that app and then you've got full access to editing the code of it, changing the assets, doing whatever, and then you can re-download that as a completely different app.
Interesting.
It's just a really good portable format, really, for things that go in virtual worlds, I guess.
Just to clarify, like, I guess I need to do that. It needs to be within like one of the Hyperfy worlds. I can't do that outside of.
Locally. You can type.
Okay.
If you're a dev and you're working on this kind of stuff, like all the tooling is there for you to generate apps outside of a world.
Okay.
And it's quite simple to do that. Yeah.
Sorry, this is in the repo, right? Or will be in the repo.
Oh yeah, it's in the repo. I'll share a link to it now.
Okay, my bad.
There was a comment or something about Meshy. Oh yeah, so like all the manifold issues with the Meshy, I didn't notice that. I'm guessing that probably one is making the file sizes larger than they need to be because it'd be duplicate vertices, but also would be probably not ideal for collision meshes.
No, it's terrible for that. Actually, if you want to like remesh, let's say you want to remesh a meshy object the right way with quad remesher, you have to hit it with a weld first because the verts aren't even touching. So the number one rule of polygon design is that you have a closed shape usually. You don't really need a closed volume, but it's a good process for game meshes.
Yeah. Is weld is the same as like going into Blender, edit mode, select all vertices, and then merge by distance? Is that the same thing?
Yeah, like a 0.001 merge. So there's algorithms, but like garbage in, garbage out. Even like when I used to make models for games, is like if there was too many like polygons in the character's lips, the guy would be like, "Get this shit out of here," and like it's not that hard, and sometimes it works. But some objects you don't want to be, especially a game collision mesh.
Yeah, we just need to get in the pockets of people building these things and tell them like how dumb they are to be doing it this way. Because we kind of had the same problem in V1 with people building VRM avatars, where it's like you just don't get it. You missed like how these things are meant to be used, and I don't know. But
3 days ago, they had Howie. We were just going crazy in the world, and some people started jumping in, and then we gave people rights to just use any models they want. So everyone just started throwing in meshies, and their computers couldn't handle it. Some people were fine, but like we just started crying. I just went through and started hitting delete on everyone's meshy objects, like murdering them. Toot. Yeah, and everything got cleaned up.
The thing is, like, we could build something that's kind of like, or anyone could build something that's kind of like in between Meshy and World, where it, like, you know, basically script opens it in Blender, there's all sorts of things that we could do there. But I prefer that people like Meshy just understand this problem or just beat it into their faces until they get it. Because, like, this is the primary use case for something like Meshy, right? Like, why else are people using?
Well, actually, I was going to bring this up to you, but I didn't know how to do it in a chat. There is one way that works. They have AI retexturing. If you take a good model and ask it to retexture it, amazing results.
Oh, really?
I'd take game models that like I made a dumpster the other day and it was like 60 polygons. You throw it into Meshy and tell it to retexture it. It's doing stuff that used to take 4 hours of work. But
For
if you
real.
give it garbage mesh, garbage back.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm still hung up on Meshy because it takes so long to generate those things. But yeah,
Sorry for a tangent, but that's all I know about that stuff.
does anyone else have any blockers or things that they're just chomping at the bit to get access to in terms of
vehicles. Vehicles is another one. Jets, starships, all the good stuff.
Yeah, those things will come. There's a point. I mean, anyone could do this, but there's a point where I want spaceships, hardcore. I want like spaceships that you can jump into and like fly around and maybe shoot each other down and stuff. Like No Man's Sky spaceships.
Exactly.
And the good thing is that now that we have app downloads, I can literally just create like a template one, and you guys, like anyone that's a 3D artist or something, can just create their own version and drop it in, and it'll work. Yeah.
I think you might be right about we should be sharing apps through worlds, and that's kind of what VR chat does with avatars. Is like you got to go to avatar worlds to get them. So maybe you'd go to like someone's world who like makes apps and just like get the ones you like.
Could we enable that for VRMs as well?
Yeah. I
'Cause
mean,
if you drag and drop a VRM, it says, "Do you want to place it or do you want to equip it?" And if you place it, it's just sitting there. You have to script it to do anything. But it could be that you want to make it available to people.
yeah.
So we could have right-click equip or even a right-click download button.
The thing Howie did where you right click equip, I don't know how much better it can get than that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's even using the same user interface. But so I feel like the main blockers are a little bit basically like Solana is one. The other one is app sharing, which I feel like the closest, most direct path to that would be just like a service where people could make worlds and explore them. And then I don't know. There's probably some random stuff like Jin wants to do pets because he's about to release something for some project. And I think the only thing in the way of that is being able to move an NPC, and that is also a blocker for AI.
I can make pets that follow you around using private APIs. The problem is that like we have a node called a controller, and it's using the PhysX capsule controller, and that lets you do the movement for a pet. So that basically, if you walk up to a pet, I think the demo that we did in V1. Oh, was it in V1? I can't even remember what the fuck is in. But basically, like the pet. Oh, it was that pet spec stuff that we worked on ages ago. So the idea was that if you click on a pet, it'll sit and it won't move. But then if you click it again, it'll follow you around. It will just literally just like moves the controller towards you. And then also like there was another thing. If you clicked it, it would pick a random emote to play or something like that. We could already do. I think we have everything needed to do that in V2. But the problem is I don't want people to be using the controller node yet because it's not. I don't think it's stable and it's likely to change and those apps might break. But for demo purposes, it would be fine, I think.
Actually, I don't think there's anyone in here who's like not going to build something because it's going to change.
Yeah, you're right. I'm like super. I think about the future where people are like, "Oh, I tried to put this thing in and it broke. This thing's rubbish. I hate this."
I think they're paintings. You finish a painting, you move on, you make another one. At least for the first months.
Yeah. I'm hopeful that there's a point where this thing is like super stable. Like in V1, we kind of got to the point where it's like, we just don't really need that much more like core things to do anything. It was more limited by the business model than anything. So I think that V2 will get to a point where it's like, there's not much more that we need to do in here. And so apps will be super stable. They'll just like always work. There will never be breaking changes, or at least like it's very unlikely that there will be. So like I'm excited about that point, but we're not at that point yet. So yeah, I think I just need to like lower my guard a little bit and just be like, we just need to experiment more and have fun and stuff.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
So I'll get a basic pet thing up. I've done pets like 3 or 4 times now, so I should be able to just like whip it up. But that'll be kind of cool content, and people can like reskin pets and just see what happens.
Just out of curiosity,
interrupted you and just went down that road.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I also interrupted. Out of curiosity, is there anyone here that's like, or do you know of anyone that's building apps or thinking about building apps?
To be honest, I'm not sure if even people knew this was going to happen. Like, there's so many things happening that I don't think we really even kind of like drilled down that this was going to be like fully portable apps and people are going to be able to build generators and all this stuff. But I think now that you guys kind of like be getting it, I would assume that there's going to be a bunch of people who want to create some of those. If you look at V1 and if you click on like editor mode and you go add, and there's like this huge list of apps, right? And most of them are building block apps. They're not like final apps, like here's a single pet. But there's now like no reason for anyone to not be able to, if they wanted to just be able to recreate all of those things in one way or another.
I feel like people don't necessarily get super enthusiastic to build apps when it's like something that's just being shared on Discord. Like they want a platform to.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's all good. This was just like. Well, sorry. The people who I know building stuff are building like multi-app game, like full experiences right now, because we haven't really like packaged the apps to be apps yet. Yeah. We're just like got there yesterday, basically.
Do we want to talk about that?
What?
Like an app marketplace type thing?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, that's what I was just saying with the Solana stuff I'm doing right now.
But Ash, I think I'm interested. Like, it'd be cool if people just built apps first, right? Like, because like, who's going to build a marketplace? I mean, you could build it, but would anyone build a marketplace if there's no apps to market? You know?
Yeah, and it can happen in any order as well.
Yeah, that's why I think the middle ground is just like at least being able to explore worlds, because someone could like build apps. They don't really need a marketplace. They just like they title their world like I'm building apps, and you go in it, and then maybe they add like a Solana payment if you want to take one, or maybe they just have them for free, just like VR chat avatars. And I feel like that's the easiest middle ground, but I don't know.
It's like super free form. It's just like here's a world, here's a bunch of stuff. Some people give them away for free. Some people might just want a little like tip, or some people might like build extremely high quality stuff, like fully polished, collectible type things, and they're like, when I actually sell that and try to make a living off it or whatever. But yeah, like you could already kind of do that, and I think we need more of an ecosystem for that that last thing I said to kind of like come into play. But yeah, the least friction way right now for us to be distributing apps or devs creating things and sharing them around is probably just by having them in world, right click, download.
Yeah, I feel like that would be like a little bit more of an incentive for people to build stuff without needing like a marketplace yet. But the marketplace, it'll come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Maybe
Easy is asking about anchors. I don't know what.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think about the best. So I talked about this earlier. Like the first thing I mentioned here was about the control scheme and how like many apps can just take over the keyboard, teleport players, and do all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to figure out where anchors go. Like I think I mentioned this last week, that it's one of the things that we really need for vehicles and roller coasters and stuff like that, is just to be able to like anchor a player to something. But I feel like I can't figure out the best place to put it, and I don't want to shoot ourselves in the feet by putting it in the wrong
What
place.
does he need it for? What do you need it for, PC?
I'm assuming it's like vehicles.
There's a bunch of things like for vehicles it's useful. We've mentioned the opposite way last time we talked, like for equipping swords and stuff. So you don't have to keep sending updates about the position of the sword. You can make the network a little lighter with anchors, right? And also for build kits like prefabs and stuff. I think having anchors would be good for that. Because like I'm not a Blender guy, right? So I could build stuff if I had the same experience as like the Sims inside Hyperfy, like a bunch of prefabs I could like mix and match. It would be very useful for me.
So there's two. I think you mentioned two things there, and I think they're probably separate. So an anchor would be, I want my player to just be locked to some object, like the player locked to some object. But then there's like attachments, which is I want this object to be attached to a certain bone on a certain player.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So you can just attach it to bones, like most of the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the attachments thing I think is fine. That we can figure out a way to do that pretty easily. I think it's just updates or stuff. But the anchors is the problem that I'm not really sure where to put that, because if every app can just like get a handle on any player and anchor them to something, what happens when two of them try to do it, to try to anchor a thing to
How did we do it with seats in V1?
Maybe, it was kind of just freeform, wasn't it? It was like you click it and it anchors them. You can only have one anchor. Maybe it's fine. Maybe I'm like way overthinking this. I get deep into app permissions and stuff like that, but yeah.
There's also like a popcorn bucket in V1 that you attach to like a bone and like a hand. Right?
I don't remember if we had to manually script the like attachment part.
I remember doing something like that with the swords, like doing PvP.
As long as we have the VRM bones, though, it is not hard, you know?
Yeah, we just need the world matrices of each bone that you can just grab for any player anytime. That way the sword script or whatever can just, every frame can just put it at that point. I think that's good enough.
So I have a funny example. Like, what if you had a truck and it was hauling a trailer and there was people on the trailer? And would that ever work?
Yeah. I think so. So there's kind of like two ways of doing anchors. One is like, just want to like every frame I want to update the position of that player. But then you've got latency. So like what you think is that position on someone else's screen might not be that position. But then there's the other way of doing anchors, which I think we really should be doing, is just saying, I want them to be attached to this object and I'll let you know when they shouldn't be. And so that way they're sitting on the seat on everyone's screen and there's no delay and they're just like, they're stuck there. So try to
like that ball. We were all playing that soccer game, and then we didn't care that the ball wasn't networked. And I think it was you. You're like, "There's no network code on that ball."
Yeah,
like,
you right clicked it, and it was just like an empty script. I'm like, what?
So now every time we have something, we always throw that script on a ball or whatever. So we're not like a bunch of 2-year-olds.
That's funny. That was super funny.
So did you eventually get the ball networked, or?
Oh yeah, we rolled it up a giant ramp like a bunch of beetles. Yeah, it was like, I think it was like probably like 40 stories high. It's fun. And we tried to like roll it down and like we just wanted it to hit us, but there's no player colliders. So he was waiting at the bottom to get like destroyed by it. We're like, picture if you just splatted.
You might have done that before I updated the server physics now. So we in this server we actually run colliders on the players so that all of that stuff works. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, it's super cool. There's still a few random things. I don't think it's perfect, but it's pretty damn good. So you can
Yeah, we were
detect
playing with
within
anvils
as
the other day, like a really heavy anvil versus like a really small seesaw.
well.
We're trying to like shoot players up.
The
You know,
new
when you
physics controller is so good. If you have a seesaw, if it's like a dynamic rigid body seesaw that's locked in place, if you jump on it, like your weight actually pushes the physics object down.
Oh yeah, we built seesaw. We had a anvil, and we were dropping the anvil on it.
All right.
It's crazy. And then you could put it on top of like wood, and then you put the wood on top of something light, and everything falls over. It's a really good system.
That's awesome. We need joints out there as well. So I did this in the reference repo, and I think the core parts are in V2 already. But like you can have joints and hinges and stuff like that, like physics based. So you could have doors on hinges that you just walk into and they kind of like swing open, like cowboy style doors and stuff like that. But then you could also have like platforms on like suspended and floating around so that you can kind of like jump on them. There's a video I showed a while back on that. But yeah, there's so many cool things we can do.
Yeah, the animation, but how we made a giant circle that would spin around, and then we started putting like hurdles on it. But when you jump, it slows you down, so you don't have the same speed, the trajectory you have on the app. So like you can't jump things really.
All right.
But it's
Do you
fun
guys
stuff.
record these things?
We usually just like green grab and shit talk, but we could.
Yeah, I feel like you guys kind of experiment with like a load of things. I'd love to see videos and stuff like that. Or
Yeah,
just
the
jump into
world got
other
nuked
people.
last night, so the whole fast
really?
food city got nuked, and we just started. I was doing like dead selfies, like of one of the guys just on the ground dead. He already had a gravesite on the land, and I didn't refresh. But it's
How
really cool.
have zero people asked for emotes yet? How is that not a thing? I guess maybe when you have like voice chat stuff like that, maybe emotes are more important. But it's funny because like,
none of us are under the age of 30.
Yeah.
I think people just want to fight more than that. They want to like just slap, push, kick.
Yep. For sure.
How did you have it set up in your videos when you had like combat and they were doing like different things? Like what were the controls for that?
Are you talking about the reference video with that little alien guy from?
Yeah, I posted one of it and he was doing like a million different emotes technically.
Yeah, I had like, I think it's still in the reference repo if you look at the player controller, but basically like the player controller just had this concept of actions, and an action could listen to keys and like return a value to say if it should play that action. And that's how we did double jump. And then you had equipable weapons, and so each action had the ability to attach an object to you. It was kind of built into it though, so like it was more experimentation than something like we need to rethink how those things work. But yeah, just each one had its own animation, its own object that could attach to a bone, and its own triggers for what happened and when it got played. But it was cool because we had like double jump as an action that you could turn on and off. And then depending on what weapon you had equipped gave you a different action. So like there was a bow and arrow, which like zoomed your camera in and let you go and like aim a reticle. And then when you let go, it shot it. And I don't think I had the actual arrow, but then there was like a dagger, which you could run around and like stab people with. But then there was the hammer, which was like when you triggered it, it stopped your movement and it like swung the hammer like down onto the ground and like pummeled the ground with it. And then it let you walk around a bit and like it slowed you down and stuff like that. Yeah, that was super cool. But like, yeah, we just need to figure out how to get that into V2 because I think.
Yeah, in my opinion, we need to make any compromise necessary to get that. That would be fire. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
it just is way.
I want it to be
engaging.
I want it to be less like hard coded into that and more like freeform, so that an app could basically give you a hammer that does all of that shit. You know, that'd be super cool. But yeah, the reason I did that is after watching like Roblox have like some really cool game mode worlds that third person where you walk in the direction, like there's different like control modes. There's like if you're always facing the camera direction, then you have to have like strafe and back step and all these different animations for every angle that you can walk and stuff. But in V2, we just have this walk and run animation, and you run in the direction that you point your arrow keys in, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not locked to the camera. And so I was trying to figure out how we make combat work in that scenario, because it feels like slightly counterintuitive and weird because you're not always facing the direction that the camera's looking. And I found a bunch of games that are doing exactly that in Roblox, and I was just trying to emulate those.
Nice.
Successfully, but yeah, we just need to figure out like the best way to make that available in the game.
I feel like that would solve all my problems that I was talking about earlier with the controller stuff, because my only concern is like that we don't hard code something that will stop us from doing other things later, basically. Not as much like the control feelings.
How could a hammer work? You said there could be an app, you grab a hammer and it makes your arm hammer mode?
Yeah, so what it did was like, if you had the hammer equipped, so first of all, that's just attaching to a bone.
Okay.
Then it would, when you click a button, so it could be any key, then it would slow the player down so they're not like running and swinging a hammer at the same time, because that's kind of weird. But it doesn't have to be completely stopped. They maybe just slow down to like 0.2 of walking speed or something, so that they can still slightly move towards the person they're swinging the hammer at. Then it plays the animation, and then after that, you know, it could deal damage, and then it releases the control over the player so they can keep running and stuff. But like, the double jump was the same thing. It played an animation, but it only let you double jump when you were in the air, so it could check the player to make sure they're first in the air, and then it would play the flip animation, and then it would apply a force to make them go a little bit higher. Like, yeah,
interesting.
But yeah, how we do that with apps, I'm not totally sure, but like, I think it's doable. We just need to sit down and do it.
Is it possible to equip something in your arm yet?
No, but I think it should be easy to do that. We already have the bone matrices. We just need to make a way that can read them, and then you can attach anything to anyone.
Yeah. I wouldn't rush any of that. I'm just curious because it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, because then you move into like interactive objects where like the things that you actually pick up and use. So like, I'm gonna pick up a key card so that I can use it on this door to open it, or picking up a weapon that I can swing around, or like, you know, NPC mobs or something. Combat, whatever. Fishing rods.
Yeah, so I don't know. You want to share what you're working on this week?
Me?
Yeah.
Lots of things. Did you have something specific, or?
No, I'm just like curious, I guess.
Yeah,
I mentioned.
I think we kind of spoke a lot about those things already. I think that at the moment I'm primarily looking at infrastructure. I've got my fingers in too many freaking buckets, but at the moment, personally, I'm working on there's infra stuff that I'm trying to work out. So I want like to figure out the most efficient way and just kind of like help the current infra guys and kind of like make sure that they're covered for everything that they need, but also trying to document some stuff surrounding how you would do that, and also looking at ways that we might be able to offer some kind of infra for world hosting, or not even hosting, just giving away some worlds and kind of getting that thing started. And on top of that, now that we have apps, it's just like there's a billion other things that we really want to go down. My approach to building all of this stuff is to do it like wide and in layers and slowly. So rather than going too far down one road, we should take a step to make sure that the rest of like the stuff on the road is coming with us. I don't even know the best way to explain that. But yeah, trying to do a lot of things. But I think with the app stuff, yeah, we should like, it feels like even just this morning made it really obvious that we should have a better way to share apps, and maybe that just doing that in worlds. So I'm going to look at that as soon as possible, I think.
Yeah, if you, I mean, I don't, whatever you come up with is fine, but if you give me something like learn.hyperfy.xyz or something that tracks a dev branch, then I can embed it into the community documentation site, and we could at least like share some stuff through there, maybe. But that's just where my head goes. Doesn't matter that
Wait,
much.
what's the difference between the hyperfy.how and the learn.hyperfy?
Hyperfy.how? No, I would just like embed it into hyperfy.how. It's just that, yeah, I don't know. It would just be like a world and on the platform because I don't know how to run it myself.
Oh, is it? You mean like a RuneScape like tutorial or something? Or
No, it would just be like a world with curated like apps that are actually good, and you go to like this community documentation site, and then you could go look at the apps in one of the tabs,
okay,
like examples. I don't know.
That's cool. So we could have one world that has a whole bunch of different things, but we kind of like need a deep link way to let you spawn at a specific thing that's trying to tell you. So you could have one world for all of it, but maybe a teleport to a specific part.
Yeah, that would be nice too, honestly, because then I could just like hard code that into the docs.
Yeah, I don't think that's hard to do. It's just we don't have it yet.
Yeah.
But we can add it for sure. Yeah, okay. Cool. Yeah,
or we
we've
can
got,
delete. We should
have the
delete
agents
everything
world.
in play. Yeah.
Yeah. I the weird thing is like, yeah, play's really good because people can just play around with it. But like, dude, there's so much stuff in there. Like, it's using
Everything's
maximum
broken
GPU,
now.
maximum memory. There's a bunch of apps and stuff that people are just crashed, and like, I think there's probably a grand total of 7,000 things that have fallen off the face of the world and just falling forever right now. Like as we're speaking,
Yeah.
they just keep falling. They're probably like 10,000 kilometers underneath the ground. So yeah, I think I hate it because like there's lots of cool stuff in there, but we might just need to rip it. Like give it.
Yeah, let's delete that. I'm not gonna lie. We've used it for marketing as much as we possibly can. Like yeah, maybe I want to put like a Tron grid on that. I love those aesthetics. Something different.
We can do that.
But
Let's do it.
all right, cool. I'm gonna dip out because I gotta go eat. But
yeah, all good. Does anyone have anything else to ask, like blockers, questions, or whatever? If not, we can finish up. We've been going for an hour and 10 minutes ish. So yeah,
I think we're good.
too good. Awesome.
See ya.
Cheers, guys.
All right, thanks, guys. See you later.
Cheers.